Hey everybody, it's Chris, and tonight we're looking at the third of the Trilogy Challenge discs for 2020. Tonight we have the Latitude 64 SPZ3, that'll be our driver this year, both in the gold line and the optoplastics. And there was a little bit of difference in flight for these two particular discs, so I'll talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about the mold. It was designed to be in the starter pack, so I think it was designed to be in retro plastic, and so the description we were given was that it was going to be very similar to a Saint, which I don't own. I'm sorry, that should be in this review. I apologize ahead of time, it's not. But a little bit less stable is what the description said. So like a Saint, but a little bit less stable. And I thought, well, that will compare really well to stock run Escapes. They're similar to an Escape or a Saint, but a little bit less understable, or a little bit less stable. And I'll throw a Stag in there. But then I took the SPZ3 out, and remember it was designed to be in retro plastic, and these are some domey GL and opto. The first time I threw the GL, about 75%, expecting it to turn, it went straight and faded hard. And I thought, oh, that's even better. So instead of, I did start with a stock run Escape, but I quickly eliminated that from competition. I went out and grabbed an old pre-Sweden and a hybrid, which are my normal throwers, and I found the SPZ3 actually fit right in between them stability-wise, which is a great flight characteristic. Now I will say I thought the SPZ3 had a little bit more high-speed turn, so it wasn't quite a straight line for me as an Escape tends to be, and this is at my power level. I know bigger arms are going to turn Escapes more than I do. But for me, especially the older run Escapes and the hybrids, go fairly straight, like a straight line, maybe a little bit dump at the end, maybe a little bit of turn, but tend to hold that. I found the SPZ3 to have a little bit more, especially the opto. I was going to say, I found the opto to be just a little bit, between these two discs, the opto was a little bit more understable. It just had a little more high-speed turn before the fade kicked in. And it might have even faded a little bit harder than the first run Escape. But I also threw the Stag in there, and I hadn't thrown a Stag in years. And I've been missing out. Like, this is a fun disc to throw. If you haven't tried one, definitely worth trying. I know it's not a review for Stag, but the Stag and the SPZ3 were actually really similar in flight numerous times. In fact, today in my last day of testing, on at least 3 occasions, they were within 5 feet of each other, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, if you like the Stag or the Escape or the Saint, I think this is a disc you're really going to gravitate towards. I think you can be very successful with it in the Trilogy Challenge. I think it's just a solid mold in general. So, I'm obviously excited about it. It was one that I enjoyed throwing. Reviews are always more fun when you enjoy throwing the disc. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below so I can get back to you. Otherwise, I'll go to the footage. You can see the discs fly, and thanks for watching. So out to the field, here's that first throw I was talking about, 70-75%. Nice straight flight and a nice decent fade, and at this point it was kind of game on. By the end of the session, this was one of my throws. Really powered it up. You can see, like I was talking about, a little bit of turn on that high-speed stability, but that nice fade at the end to come back to center. I have been throwing more sidearm lately. I've put some videos out about that. It's getting a little bit better. This is about 230 feet, and I parked it. That was really good. I'm pretty excited, but my sidearm is very inconsistent still. I max out around, on a really good day, maybe 275, and this was really pushing my limit, so it's pretty sloppy, but you can see with my amount of power, it was actually a pretty decent thrower in this pure hyzer here. And then back to the backhand, as I said, especially with this opto, there's a little bit of turn on that high speed, but that fade brings it back to center and punches up the fairway nicely. And here's just a nice gut shot, straight flight, fade back to the pin, gives me a putt as well. Let's go to comparisons. Starting with the VIP Stag, I actually thought these discs flew pretty similarly overall. On this first throw, you can see the SPZ3 had a little more turn initially, but is going to correct and stall out a little bit faster than the Stag. They do end up very close to each other on the ground. On this next flight, the GL isn't quite as understable as the opto, so you're going to see it stall just a little bit faster, but again, because of the overall flights, these discs are going to end up pretty similar location. That was pretty consistent with these two. The Stag and the SPZ3 like to get to the same spot on the ground. Not quite on this one. I was trying to come around the corner a little bit faster on this one. You can see I got a little wider with the Stag, and that worked because it caught the back door, whereas the SPZ3 got knocked down by a tree a little bit early. I was actually really happy with that throw, just didn't get the result I wanted in the woods. That happens. Here we go again, opto versus Stag. This was maybe at 80%. I was still warming up at this point. You can see just that nice straight line with fade. Didn't overpower it, so that turn didn't come in. As opposed to this shot, this was an intentional turn around those trees and a light pole getting into the soccer field on the other side. That was the intent of this throw. Both discs actually track very close, end up within 5 feet. Let's move on to the Lucid Escape. You can see here both discs are going to hold a nice line down the initial fairway and fade beautifully around the corner to actually set up a nice second shot on the second portion of this tricky par 4. On this throw, I actually didn't throw either disc particularly well. You can see I turned over the Lucid Escape a little bit more, but both were thrown too low and too turned over, so they just landed early. Comparison just because I failed in the same way with both of them. On this shot, both of them are thrown high with a little bit of tilt to get some extra distance, trying to get it out to the trash can. The Escape was thrown just a touch better. It's going to fade. It's going to sweep back. The more aggressive fade of the SPZ3 just left it ditched right a little bit. The rear reverse throw, it's hard to catch these on camera, but you're going to see the Escape was thrown more inside, so it's going to fade to your right, whereas the SPZ3 is right on target. I was actually pretty happy with the result on this shot. Let's move on to the Hybrid Escape now. It is going to be a little bit more overstable than the Lucid Escape, a little more aggressive fade, and then you're going to see that match up well with the GL SPZ3. Even with more height from the SPZ3 to work with, these discs are going to end up in similar locations. And that'll happen again here. Obviously the Escape was thrown lower, but that more aggressive overstability is going to sweep it left, and they're going to end up very close to each other once more. In review, the SPZ3 is Latitude 64's driver addition to the Trilogy Challenge this year. Its 1.9 centimeter rim and stability should make it accessible to most throwers. If you've thrown a Saint, Escape, or a Stag in the past, it probably feel pretty familiar in the hand. If you liked this review or found it informative, please feel free to like it, share it, or subscribe to the channel, and as always, thanks for watching.